Hi, my name is Emily Day, a senior energy modeller here at Aurora. Today, we are sitting down with my guests and current graduate modellers, Nathan Keown, Florence Miller, and Mark Griffiths, who will share their first-hand experience of working at Aurora on the graduate modelling programme. If you're a final year undergraduate, postgraduate, or recent graduate who wants to apply their problem-solving, quantitative, and problem programming skills to build software that is shaping the energy transition, this programme could be for you, so listen in. To learn more about our graduate programmes and how to apply, visit auroraer.com/grads. Mark, please can you introduce yourself?
Yep, of course. So hi, everyone. As Emily mentioned, my name is Mark Griffiths, and previous to working at Aurora, I studied physics, doing an integrated master's at the University of Birmingham, before going on to do a PhD in nuclear physics there as well. I should probably caveat that with saying that the nuclear physics PhD wasn't anything to do with energy. It was more from a theoretical physics standpoint. And at the end of that, I wanted to transition away from academia and kind of go into something with more real-world applications, which is what led me to Aurora. I've been working as part of the Americas modeling team, specifically on a region on the east coast of the US called PGM, and also the Alberta region in Canada.
Great, thank you, Mark. Florence, do you want to quickly introduce yourself?
Yeah, sure. So my name's Florence. I studied computer science at the University of Cambridge. I don't have a master's, I just did a BA and left. And I was looking for a job where I could use my programming skills, but I didn't want to go into just software engineering. So I think this has worked out really well for me. At Aurora, I work on the Nordics and Baltics modeling team, doing regional modeling. So lots of hydropower and fun stuff like that.
Great, thanks, Florence. And finally, Nathan, do you want to introduce yourself?
Yep. Hi, everyone. I'm Nathan. I studied maths and physics at Queen's University Belfast. And after that, I was looking for a job where I could use these problem-solving skills in maths and physics. And I also knew I wanted to do something related to the energy transition. So I found that Aurora has been a great fit for that. And when I joined into the France and Iberia team. And recently, I've moved to working on GB and Ireland.
Great. Thanks, Nathan. Now, Florence, can you tell us a little bit about the application and interview process?
Yeah, sure. So I think when I was looking for jobs to apply to, I didn't really know what it was that I was looking for. So I was looking on lots of different job boards for things that I thought might suit my skill set. And I thought that the Aurora modeling grad scheme seemed like it would suit me really well. But I still wasn't very sure about that. I think I did 2 interviews before getting the job offer here. And they involved a lot of problem-solving questions. So there were a lot of sort of, I guess you call them like quantitative puzzle-type questions, which I thought were really fun, actually. And I think that the fact that I enjoyed them and I felt like I was quite good at them made me think that maybe this would be a job that I'd end up being quite good at. And I think something else that I really enjoyed about it was in the second interview, also did a case study, which I guess sort of simulates the sort of models that we use here in a much simpler context, a sort of battery modeling thing. And I thought that was really interesting and gave a good insight into the sort of models that we run and the work that we get to do here. The second interview was also in the Oxford office. So I got to come and see Oxford and see whether it was a city where I thought I would live very happily. And so I really enjoyed having the opportunity to do that as well.
Great, thank you. And now, Nathan, maybe moving on from the application process, could you tell us a little bit how you found your first few weeks at Aurora?
Yeah, so straight away in Aurora, we came in the first day and we all went to the examination schools and just got to know a few people, both on the modeling graduate program and also the analysts graduate program, which is just a different department and another option for people looking to apply. And yeah, so we got to know people there, which was nice, sociable. And the first week we had a few introductions just to energy markets and the basics. Then pretty quickly we got into small groups of about 4 people, and we had a different trainer allocated to us every couple of weeks, which was nice to meet a few people with more experience. And we got down to basically learning the models, learning the basics to start with. It was good to have a group of a few of us all learning the same stuff at the same time, just to bounce questions off each other and stuff like that. And every day we'd have a check-in for an hour or so with our trainer, and yeah, just go through all the questions we had, and quickly discovered it was quite a steep learning curve that was just great, from coming in with very little knowledge to within a few weeks knowing so much more already.
Great, thank you. And then maybe Mark, since you work a lot with our Americas office and in a different time zone, could you tell me what your typical day looks like and how it's maybe a bit different from some of the other modelers?
Yeah, so as you say, working with colleagues in the US, my typical day is probably quite atypical. So it would usually start off by reading some updates from colleagues in the US, because they will be working over, I guess, my evening and my nighttime when I've clocked off. Seeing if they've had any modeling issues or if they've got any requests that they need me to quickly look into for the next day. So I'd kind of start off by going through those messages and emails and working out for the day I've got coming up, how much time do I have and can I fit these tasks in? Then after I've done that, maybe an hour or so in, I have a few check-ins with some of my UK colleagues, so other people on my team, where we kind of discuss what we've got planned for the day, what we worked on the day before, and if there are any issues we've kind of got that are blocking us. So if there is something that I'm struggling with, for example, where I need a little bit of help, or something that I need someone else to do first before I can do my work. And it's a good opportunity to discuss that with other people, and particularly people who are more senior than me, so that I can get advice and help with that. After that, I'll usually get stuck into solving any of the issues that have come up overnight from the US team, as well as some potentially long-term projects that I've been working on as well. So I do work on a mix of shorter projects and longer term projects as well, and try and balance my time between the two of those things. And then I'll do that for most of probably the middle of the day. And then later on in the day, maybe sort of mid-afternoon, my US colleagues will start logging on for their morning. And at that point, we'll probably have a few meetings to kind of discuss the work that I've been doing in the day, and also kind of align on what they've been doing and what I've been doing to make sure that we're kind of meeting the goals that we've set. And if there's any projects that we've been working on that are kind of coming to a stage where they're finishing up, I'll present the work based on that and kind of get sign off from people in the US that the work I've done is good and they're happy with it.
Great, thanks, Mark. Yes, as Mark said, he works a lot with the US office, but in the graduate modelling program, you can be assigned to various different teams, working with different offices and on completely different types of projects. So now I'm going to ask each of you to tell me about the favourite projects you've worked on, to show some of the variety of the work you can do in the graduate modelling program. Maybe Nathan, if you could start us off.
Yes, so my favourite project that I've worked on so far was when I was working for the Iberia team, which is Spain and Portugal. And so the analysts in that team were working on a project which was looking at basically alternative ways of renewables making profit by dispatching in various different markets. So typically in the past, renewables will only sell in the day-ahead market, which is just the main market for most countries. And so this was basically, they wanted to look into alternative markets that renewables could be dispatched in instead, just to have a slightly different business case, which is something that was pretty new to all the clients and ended up going down very well. So from my side, that basically meant they had already had an outline for what they wanted the model to do. So it was a case of, for me, building a Python script pretty much from scratch, which was something new to me and helped me a lot in developing my Python skills. And I enjoyed basically seeing that from start to finish, how it added new features as we went based on feedback from the research team, and basically getting to see that be used in the end and go down really well with lots of clients.
Great, thanks Nathan, that's really interesting. Mark, did you want to tell us about your favourite project?
Yeah, I think for me, my favourite project was also the first project I worked on, which was something we call backcasting for the PGM region. So as I said earlier at the start of the call, PGM is a region in the east of the US. Due to how these regions in the US work, it's quite hard to explain exactly where it is because it doesn't line up with states perfectly as you'd expect it to. But if you are interested, maybe I'd recommend Googling it. But yeah, with backcasting for PGM, the way that this works is essentially we want to see how well our model matches historical behavior. So things like prices, for example. So by running our model for historical years and seeing how that matches to historical data that we've got, we can see if there are any anything that we're not capturing so well, any differences that we might need to resolve, and then hopefully through doing that, the aim is that we can improve our predictions in the forecast or the future. Working on the backcasting was a really interesting project for me, partly because I just learned so much so quickly, because it's quite a broad topic, quite a broad investigation you do when you're looking into backcasting. You do sort of look at every area of the model and every area of the market. So it allowed me to learn quite a bit quite quickly, which I really, really enjoyed. In that period, I couldn't believe how much I was learning in such a short space of time. The other thing I really enjoyed about it as well is, as I said, it was my first project when I was here at Aurora, but it really made me feel like I was trusted with the responsibility of making changes that were, quite impactful on the PGM product. It didn't feel like I was just, doing small jobs that didn't really have much impact. It really did feel like I was trusted immediately to do things that had quite a big impact. And yeah, I really enjoyed that. So I think between learning quite a bit and having that responsibility, I really enjoyed that project.
Great. Thanks, Mark. And yes, I definitely agree. The Aurora graduate modelling programme gives you a lot of opportunity to learn things very quickly. Florence, did you want to tell us about your favourite project?
Yeah, so I'm also going to talk about the first project that I did after finishing the initial 5 or 6 weeks of training, I guess. The training that we did is fairly non-region specific, and certainly for me working on the Nordics, there aren't very many Nordics modelers, and so I didn't have much opportunity to learn about Nordics during my training, and so I was, I think, quite intimidated going into my first project. I didn't really know what to expect. The first project I did, I'll start by giving a tiny bit of background. The way energy prices normally work is you have one price for a whole country. But the Nordics are slightly different in that each country is divided into different price zones that have different prices. And Sweden in particular is divided into 4 different energy price zones. And the first project I did was working on a version of the model where we slightly moved the boundary between SE3 and SE4 and seeing how that affected the prices in SE3 and SE4 and also in the other price zones. And I really enjoyed this because it was a longer term project. I got to meet and work with the analysts based in Stockholm. So they were gathering all the data for this, and then I was sort of implementing it into the model. And it was a project where I really got to see how it followed through. We ended up having a GM. So that meant that the analysts ended up presenting the results of the project to a lot of clients. And I got to meet a lot of the different clients who were interested in the work that we were doing and hear about how they use the data that we are publishing. Also, it was a great opportunity to learn a little bit more about how the Nordic price zones interact. So being able to predict what kind of price impacts we'd see in the 2 different zones from reconfiguring the border between them. And it really helped me understand some of the complexities of the region that I've ended up modelling ever since.
Thanks, Florence. And yes, it's always really exciting to see the work you've done get presented to clients and see that real world impact that the modelling role can give you. Now, within the graduate modelling programme, there are 2 different modelling roles that you could be assigned to. So within the modelling team, we are split into our core and regional modelling roles. So the core modelling role focuses much more on the software development and the code. That's not to say that if you're in the regional role or the core role, you will always or never do coding. It's just that the core role puts more emphasis on the coding and the software development, whereas the regional role looks much more at how to apply our models in a specific region or context. You may have just noticed from the favourite projects described, the 3 modelers we have here joining us today are focused on the regional role and how to apply the models to specific regions and markets. However, Mark has recently done a secondment or time spent with the core modelling team. So Mark, could you please tell us a little bit of how the core modelling role is a bit different from your usual work?
Yep, so as Emily said, I've recently been tasked with developing a feature for the Alberta product, which has meant that I've had to spend some time working with the core team, because although it is useful for the Alberta product, it's more of a fundamental feature of the model, which means, yeah, it's best for me to spend some time with the core team developing it. In terms of how this has been different, I would say that you can definitely tell there's much more of an emphasis on the software development side of things. And this is something that I've found quite interesting, quite valuable. It's been especially useful for me coming from a physics background. When I've been taught to code in the past, it's kind of been for purpose. So a lot of my coding style and stuff like that probably isn't up to scratch in terms of what you want for a software development role. So having the opportunity to work in a team that's much more focused on good practice and things like that has been really, really useful to me. And yeah, it's allowed me to learn a lot more on the coding side of things, which I think I can definitely take into the regional role as well. So where I'd probably say in the regional role, a lot of my learning has probably been more market-based, learning about energy markets and the particular markets that I work on. I'd say through the short time that I've worked with the core team, I've been able to develop my coding skills further, which has been really useful for me.
Great, thanks, Mark. And now maybe moving on from the work we do to some of the more fun side of Aurora. So Florence, could you tell me a little bit about the Women at Aurora Society?
Yes, sure. So there is a society that we have at Aurora called Women at Aurora, which is, at least for me, a really great way to meet some of the other people working in the Oxford office. I normally work with people based in Stockholm. And so through Women at Aurora, I get to meet women who are working as analysts or, in core other teams at Aurora. And they hold a bunch of different events. So I know that there are Women at Aurora breakfasts where you can go and, drink coffee and eat pastries and chat to other women. I've also been to a conference that was aimed at women in energy, and Aurora funded me going to that, which was really, really interesting, and a chance to listen to some really interesting speakers and take part in some workshops. So I was really happy to be able to participate in that.
Great. Thanks, Florence. And yeah, I think this is a really important issue that at Aurora we want to make sure energy and particularly software development roles are typically quite male-dominated industries, and we really want to try and encourage women applicants and a positive culture for the women working at our company. That's not to say that that's the only focus. Nathan, could you maybe tell me a little bit more about some opportunities you've had to connect and build relationships with the other graduate modelers and other colleagues?
Yes, of course. So since we've joined, we've had lots of various social events, both just as a graduate cohort and also as a wider modeling team. So just recently, we've had our 1 year on the graduate program dinner, which was really nice just to catch up with the people that we joined with again. As well as that dinner, we also have various modeling socials, either as small modeling teams, for example, the European modelers, or the wider modeling team as well. And one particular favorite of that is the punting trip that we usually have every year. As well as the organized events, there's lots of other things we do regularly that are just more casual. So for example, most weeks or even most days, you'll have people who are up for going maybe for lunch at the Gloucester Green Market, or it was a sunny day going to eat in Christchurch Meadows, also to maybe a pub quiz on a Wednesday, or just after the Friday meeting of pizzas, we then would go to the pub quite often. There's also quite a lot of sports clubs. For example, I play football with Aurora people most Mondays. As a running hater, I've even joined the running club a bit, just because it's nice to do it socially, and Oxford is a very nice place to run. And on top of that, we realized quite early on in the grad program that there are quite a lot of us who are keen spikeball players. So we got in touch with the Aurora Fun Committee, and they have got us a spikeball set. And that has really grown in popularity, with lots of people who never heard of spikeball now coming along to play quite often after work, including Mark, who played recently with us.
I can recommend it.
Great. Thanks, Nathan. And yeah, I think that's one thing about Aurora, they always want to try and encourage new societies and groups. So if you have the initiative, you can get some funding for things like a spike ball kit. Florence, could you tell me what you like most about working at Aurora?
So I think even, as I say, I just do regional modeler work really, but the work that I end up doing is so varied. You said mostly as a regional modeler, you're not going to be doing as much coding or developing new features. So a lot of what I do is model calibration and things. For example, deciding on what model settings will allow the model to run quickly enough while also producing the best data possible. But there are also some more code-based features that I do get to develop. For example, for us, at least within Europe, we're the only region that uses a lot of the Hydro code. And so I get to have quite a lot of ownership over that and, test and develop new features. I get to test a little bit from time to time to the Brazil team because they also do a lot of Hydro modeling. So it's super cool to hear what they have to say and incorporate that into the work that I'm doing as well. And also we work both with the research analysts, which is producing regular power market forecasts, but also I get to work on a lot of advisory projects with the advisory analysts. And that often ends up being much quicker, much shorter projects, often just modifying the features that we have and supporting them through those.
Great. Thank you, Florence. Now, Mark, could you tell me a little bit about how you would describe Aurora's modeling team culture and also the wider Aurora culture?
Yeah, of course. I think the modeling team has a really, really good working culture that I've enjoyed being part of during my time here. I'd say overall it's really relaxed and sociable while still being hardworking at the same time, which I think is a really, really hard balance to find. Everyone's really nice and supportive within teams, because obviously we have smaller teams. As I mentioned, I'm on the Americas team, but also in the wider modeling team as a whole. We've had a variety of socials, whether that be going to the pub, going out for meals, also doing events like punting or going to indoor cricket as well we've done while I've been here. Also, everyone's been really friendly as well because for the indoor cricket specifically, I unfortunately injured my knee quite badly the day before that and missed out on the cricket in the meal. But my team very kindly organised a takeaway voucher for me so that even though I was at home, I didn't have to miss out fully, which was really, really nice of them. And I think is a good example of kind of what the team culture is like here. I also, working on America specifically, I've mentioned this previously. I found it really interesting working with people in the US, and also I work with modelers based in Brazil as well, in Sao Paulo. I thought working with people so far away who don't work many of the same hours as you would be really, really tough. But even with a few hours overlap, I found interacting with them really easy. Honestly, with a lot of them that I work more day to day, it feels like they're just in the office with me almost. The fact that I built up that rapport with them, which has been really, really nice. And I think that culture as well extends to beyond the modeling team. It extends to Aurora as a whole. Everyone is just really, really friendly. Everyone knows people in other departments and has chats with them. We have a Friday meeting where we have a few drinks and pizza to kind of see what all the other departments have been up to, and it's a really good chance to socialize with everyone there. And yeah, it's just a pleasant place to be is how I describe it, a really pleasant place to be.
Great, thanks Mark. Florence, could you maybe tell me a little bit about your opportunities to visit other offices?
Yeah, of course. So as I said, I work mostly with analysts based in Stockholm, so we don't have as much of the time difference inconveniences playing a role, but the company still was really encouraging us to head out to Stockholm. I've been out twice this year, both for, as I said, a GM based on some work I'd done with the Swedish bidding zone reconfigurations, but also just to make sure that the whole team gets an opportunity to meet the analysts in person, to make sure that we get along really well. And both times it's been so lovely. They plan so much stuff for us to do every time we go out there. We went to some lovely restaurants. We also played paddle, which I really enjoyed. And I always really look forward to being able to see them and visit their office and, have meetings with them in person.
Mark, could you tell me who you think would be a good fit for the Aurora graduate modeling role?
Yeah, I think someone who'd be a good fit for the graduate modeling role would have a fairly academic background. That doesn't need to be anything specific. As you can tell, hearing the three of us speak, we've all come from quite different backgrounds. But I think it's, yeah, having that academic background, having good problem solving skills, a bit of coding knowledge is good. And I think the main thing as well is wanting to apply these skills to a real world problem. Because a lot of the challenge, I think, with our role is kind of, we've got these skills, but how do we actually apply these to the real world problems that we come across as part of our job? So I think that's one of the main things. I would also say at Aurora, there's a lot of collaboration as well, a lot of working closely with other modelers and people in the research team as well. So I'd say it's a good role for someone who likes working with others and feels that they can work quite well as a team.
Great. Thank you, Mark. And finally, kickstarting your career in this industry can be daunting, especially as a student or recent graduate. Nathan, what advice do you have for those considering applying to the graduate programme?
I would say that I wouldn't worry too much about having limited knowledge or experience of the energy sector, or of for this role, although it is quite coding heavy. I've learnt almost all my coding knowledge since joining here. So I'd say don't worry too much about the limited experience at this stage. If you have the problem solving skills and the potential to learn all this, Aurora is a great place to do this learning. You're learning from the experts, both in the energy industry and also experts at coding here. One other thing about the energy industry that stuck with me since the training at the start was one of the more senior analysts saying about how, although lots of people have been in the energy industry a long time, the energy industry is really changing with the energy transition. So sometimes it's better to come in with a clean slate and learn about it from the experts at Aurora who are really looking into the future, rather than having a lot of experience of the coal and gas that the energy industry has looked like in the past.
Thanks, Nathan. And yeah, definitely would encourage anyone to apply and not worry if you have limited energy knowledge. So if anything you've heard today has inspired you, please consider applying to the Aurora Graduate Modelling Programme. For more information about the programme, to apply or sign up to our mailing list, please visit auroraer.com/grads.